Loving all the nutrition talk recently, and it's really helping me out. However, in all this talk of consuming as many carbs as possible, does this apply to shorter 60 to 90-minute workouts as well? Amber, this is the minimum effective dose thing with carbs again, right?
Again. Yeah. I think so, and this isn't going to apply to everybody, but I think a lot of folks, and this came up in our pre-podcast discussion, but a lot of folks view the bike specifically as a weight loss tool. So it's very, in that sense, when you're coming at it with that framing, the idea of eating adequate carbohydrate and really fueling on the bike seems counterintuitive, because you're thinking like, this is my time to create calorie deficit. And so why would I want to take in a bunch of calories and let alone carbs when I'm trying to create this deficit for weight loss? And I think the thing to keep in mind is, again, we've said this before, fuel the effort on the bike, because the more that you get out of each workout, the better those physiological adaptations are going to be. And you will end up at the same place, but with a healthier, more resilient, more robust body. It just takes time, right? And what you eat throughout the day is also really important. It's not just what you eat on the bike. So what we like to say is chase the performance when you're on the bike, which means give your body the fuel it needs to hit as good a power output as possible during the workout. And then that extra quality on that one workout is going to add up workout after workout after workout, week after week after week, month after month after month. And one of the things that we hear a lot, and I think this is what this question is getting at, is if you've eaten appropriately the day before, let's say, and you're doing a workout in the morning, your glycogen stores are quote unquote topped off, you should theoretically have enough glycogen to get yourself through 60 to 90 minutes, right? And this is one of those, just because you can doesn't mean you should, first of all. And second of all, it's not just about duration. Like doing 60 minutes or 90 minutes of active recovery or endurance is going to be a way different stress on the body and your fuel stores and substrate use than doing 60 minutes of VO2 work or sweet spot work. So intensity is really a much bigger factor than duration when you're thinking about fueling needs. You want to fuel the performance. You want to give your body the best chance of getting the highest quality out of that workout. So giving your body the fuel to do that, even though you could squeak by probably on those glycogen stores, you're not going to have as high quality work during that workout, and that will add up over time. So that's sort of an opportunity cost that starts to gain momentum over time. And then the other part of this that is less related to glycogen stores and fueling is just the habit, building a habit. So when you get on the bike, and every single time you get on the bike, you're in the habit of taking in, a carbohydrate mix or eating blocks or eating gels, and you don't have to think about it anymore. That is a huge advantage when it comes to your event day, because you're not going to have to consciously make decisions to fuel. It's going to be a habit. It's going to be autopilot. It's going to bring that cognitive load down by just leaps and bounds. And that's a huge performance gain right there for you. So thinking of it in terms of building habits, it's nothing that's going to be detrimental. It's going to improve your performance on the workout. And then over time, that's going to build up. And then the last thing I want to say about this is I think a lot of people look at this like, you hear an anecdote about somebody who is doing fasted training, and most often those anecdotes are of people who have already put in all of the work on the fundamentals and the basics. They've already built their engine to a world-class level, and then they're using, maybe it's intermittent fasting, maybe it's, training low, so to speak, and I say that in quotes, as a marginal gain. And I promise you, speaking from experience, when you look at the pro ranks, this is not something that the pros do regularly. The pros fuel their training. And if they do train low where they're training fasted, it's extremely rare. And it's almost always when they're doing low intensity, not when they're doing any kind of interval work. So this is, if you're jumping right to this, thinking that you're going to get gains, you're already jumping to something that's being used as a marginal gain sparingly in a very specific circumstance where you're most likely going to get the most gains out of just fueling the work, so that the bulk of the work that you're doing, even if it's only 60 minutes or 90 minutes, if you're doing interval work, you're going to benefit from carbohydrate intake. You just want to get the most quality out of that, because that's going to be like 90 to 95% of your gains right there. don't jump into those marginal gains thinking that that should be the foundation of your work. The foundation of your work should be that 90 to 95% fundamentals.
Yeah. I have some thoughts on this, but Nate, I don't want to step on your toes if you have any that you want to share too.
I have lots of thoughts. I know every time we say this stuff too, people will mention other researchers and stuff, and we've covered them lots of times on the podcast. I think someone said, like, you guys should cover NOACs. There's probably 80 episodes where we talked about NOACs, like, or keto or stuff like that. So you can please listen back, and we're aware of, that sort of research. And that was kind of a trend maybe too, like 5 or 6 years ago. It got really popular for a while. I remember one thought that people have is, well, if I take carbohydrate in, therefore it'll teach my body to use carbohydrate and it will not use fat. Therefore, in my big races, I won't use my fat stores and then I won't have carbohydrate left for the very intense portions. And I know that's the thought, and that's like based on mechanism, but again, talking to more researchers, they have observed people who take in carbs, like I'm thinking of an ultra endurance guy, 90 grams every hour per ride, and had an off the chart burning fat per hour just because he was so fit, where the researcher was actually stopped and said, wait, are you keto? Are you fasting? Because why is your fat so high? It's like, no, I'm just
super fit.
Super fit, train that way. And it does raise up. You burn more fat. And I guarantee you someone is typing right now on YouTube telling me that I'm wrong. But this is what we're observing in top athletes, because if you look at the mechanism, you think, well, it's stopped off. You're not doing it. Therefore, you're never going to, like, you take 1 gram of carb in, you're not going to do as well. It seems like that's not the case. And you can still burn lots and lots of fat by becoming very, very fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thought that I had on this too that I want to share is Alex made a great point last episode, and I want to reiterate this. So there's the fear too that if you take in any sort of carbs, that's somehow putting you in a surplus as well. And a lot of it is related to, like what Amber said, is because they view like the bike as the time to make the deficit. And if you actually look though at how many calories you burn and then how many calories you can replace when you're on the bike, even if you're fueling at like 80 grams an hour, that's not, depending on efficiency for each person, but I think it's somewhere around 140 to 150 watt average per hour that you would have to do to like get to like a 0 point. Now, if you have a really low, or if you have like a relatively low FTP, and that would be a hard ride for you, then I'm jealous, because that's awesome. You get to somehow balance things out, and you can take in enough carbs. You're like a forever riding machine, right? Like you can take in calories and not go into a deficit. But for most, for most middle-aged athletes that have been training for a long time, which are usually the type of athletes that are asking these sort of questions, like getting into the nitpicking and the marginal gains sort of talk, you probably average more than 140 watts during your rides, more than 150 watts. So your fear of taking in even 60 grams an hour of carbs, like you're still leaving yourself at the end of that workout not having replenished what you actually burned. So Alex made that point, and I just want to nail that home. It's extremely important. Don't forget the fact that when you are on the bike, it's very hard to not come out of it from a deficit. Impossible in many cases. And with this too, I would always rather so if I look at my day and I have before my workout, during my workout, and after workout, I would much rather put all the fueling that I can into the during workout if I had to pick, right? I'd rather put as much into that as possible and take in as many carbs as I can safely with my body as possible. So then that way, when I'm outside of it, I can make healthier choices, and it's a little bit easier. Like that way, I'm not going to be starved and feeling famished, and I'm not just going to raid the fridge afterward and just eat a whole thing of cookie dough. Or before the workout, I'm not just going to bank up this huge thing by just going crazy on pancakes or something. Like you can, when you don't have all that stress because your workout isn't putting yourself in a hole, instead you're trying to finish close to topped off, then you get to make easier choices with nutrition outside of it too. So it just makes everything a lot easier. And I think that the more you fuel the work, the more work you'll be capable of doing. And as you continue to do that, and over time, that will compound, your body will become more efficient. Your body composition will optimize, and you won't have to try to like force the issue here and try to make yourself thin, make yourself strong on the bike, and then constantly working with that balance. It's much easier if instead you just try to fuel the work.
A few more things to say. If you're a low carb athlete and you start taking in carbs, especially if you eat it during the day, And you see this all the time. Someone goes, man, I eat any carbs, I instantly gain 3, 4, 5 pounds. And if you do the math, like you're like, wow, 5 pounds, that's 5 times 3,500, right? Of how many extra calories you'd have to do to actually gain that in body mass. But what happens is you start to, your body will store glycogen. Like you were low on glycogen, and glycogen with every 2 grams, you get 1 gram of water. You actually were holding less water too. So as you load up on that over time, your body will naturally store more glycogen. Your body composition is actually improving because your muscles are getting heavier as a percentage. And you might gain a little bit of weight, but you're actually going to be faster. And it happens on the opposite side of keto, where people start keto in the first week or 2 weeks, they lose like 5 pounds. And you're like, wait, if you do the math of how much they burn, like that's really hard to do. And someone says, well, keto's like, magical. That's how that happens. But you actually just run your glycogen stores really low. You lose the glycogen and water. So make sure you think of that. And 2, for me, like if I'm just talking about this, I want to try 120 and see how my gut does. Because if I can do 120 at Cape Epic, I just did a little bit of math. Like I could have an extra 5,000 calories on the bike during 8 days. And I think that would be a huge, because we're going to be definitely depleted, right, at the end of Cape Epic. If I could have 5,000 extra calories while riding, that would be amazing. But if you do the math with calories, and let's say you eat an extra, I don't know, 400, 200 calories, it's not really that much if you're kind of up it. What you can do is just remove that from a snack or a late night dinner. And that's not hard to do. 200 calories is like a pat of butter, right? Like you just do a little bit less. But the one thing I would say too is communicate with your spouse if you're doing this. With my wife, she can kind of get upset if I don't eat a big dinner. And she's like, well, you don't like it? I'm like, I just had 2,000 calories in the last like 2 hours with my recovery drink. I'm super full. And it's hard for me to then eat a huge meal. Rather, if I didn't have recovery shake and I didn't do it, I would like just eat everything that was put in front of me. So if there's a little bit of communication and you can just remove it from another spot, probably, I personally think a little bit from a dinner, if you're training in the evening a little and you do a recovery shake, removing those calories from the dinner is better than the breakfast or the 3-hour pre-meal, removing it from. Because I like to kind of load up, do it during the ride, get the recovery drink, then have a sensible dinner where you kind of take a little bit of that stuff away. You can have the same calories during the day, but really be like super strong on the bike.
Best way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Amber, do you have something else to add?
I just wanted to chime in one quick thing there. All of this is, I think it's really easy to misunderstand when you read, a study here or there. A lot of what is in the mainstream media is referring to people who are living sedentary lifestyles. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're somebody who rides regularly, that is not you. So really take that stuff with a grain of salt and try to take it in through the lens of, does this really apply to me? Am I one of those people that's living a sedentary lifestyle? If you're training on a bike 5, 10, 12 hours a week, like that's not sedentary. And also what we're saying is applying to individuals who do not have metabolic disease, right? So this is in the absence of metabolic disease, applying to people who are active, who aren't living a sedentary lifestyle. And I want to follow up with one last thing, because I do think that this is a major point of confusion, because a lot of the conversation around keto, low carb, high fat diets centers on substrate use. And so whether you're burning fat or carbohydrate, and in almost all cases, you're burning a little bit of both. And the relative ratios of what you're burning is going to depend a lot on your training history and your training status. So like this individual that Nate was referring to, this person was extremely highly trained. So very, very, very fit. So they were taking in huge amounts of carbohydrate during training and still seeing off the charts fat oxidation, meaning they're burning a ton of fat, more than usual. But the reason for that is because they're really, really fit. So if you're fueling the work and becoming fitter, that is naturally going to happen. The other thing that I think is a misconception is this idea that if you're burning more fat than carbohydrate, that somehow you're not going to bonk. And this is problematic for a couple reasons. And again, this is one of those things where if you look at it from a mechanistic point of view and you say, oh, if I'm burning fat, then I'm sparing glycogen, therefore, like I will be fresher at the finish of the race. That sounds like sound logic, but when you look at the research, it does not bear out. So when they do studies that are actually comparing performance outcomes, so not just whether you're burning carbohydrate or fat, but you're looking at performance outcomes, it's pretty clear that performance, if you're trying to perform at intensities that are roughly sweet spot or higher, performance at those intensities is impaired if you're using a low carb, high fat, keto style diet. And one possible reason for that, so again, we don't know mechanism. Mechanism is a little bit of a black box, but one proposed reason for that, and there is some research that supports this, it hasn't been, definitively, proven, but it makes sense, is that even though you can make more ATP from 1 unit of carbohydrate, you can make more ATP from 1 unit of fat than you can from 1 unit of carbohydrate, the oxygen cost of burning fat is significantly higher than the oxygen cost of burning carbohydrate. And we know this has long been shown in the research that oxygen availability and delivery is one of the primary limiters of performance when you're working out or training or performing at intensity. And if you're doing interval work on the trainer, you are at intensity, which means that oxygen delivery and availability is a huge limiter. So when you're trying to favor fat oxidation over carbohydrate oxidation through diet manipulation, you might be increasing the oxygen cost of all of the work that you're doing. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's just that when we are talking on this podcast, our goal is to help you get faster. So our goal is to say, what are the things that are going to help you improve your power output? And the research is showing that low carb, high fat, ketogenic diets do actually impair performance at those higher intensities. That's all. That's where we're coming from on this. That's all we're trying to say. But to your point, 60 to 90 minutes, if it's super easy, do you technically need it? No, but there's a lot of benefit that can come from going ahead and fueling those workouts anyway, and not really any downside.
Question: who wants to go through the comments and answer everyone who's going to yell at us?
Thank you, Ivy.
You got this one?
Thank you, Ivy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ivy.
Yeah.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.